Hello, everyone. Welcome to the media show. Today, we have a special show on solidarity of Tigrayans for independence and liberty. Um, I'm pleased to have two of the founders. This solidarity and new movement would be established in 2 weeks' time. But I have two of these founders, Marcel Kidan and Dr. Gauram Kalzarazion, who would be speaking to this subject. Tigray has been under war, a genocidal war for that matter, since November 4, 2020, and there has been a lot of discussions, voices that are heard, I mean, in a very limited way from Tigray, within Tigray because of the blockade, but a lot from diaspora. So we'll be talking about what this movement is, what its objectives, strategies, how it compares and contrasts with the parties that are currently operating in Tigray. Gentlemen, welcome to EMD Media Show.
Thank you, Professor
Thank
Getachew.
you.
Great. So, first off, what is this solidarity of Tigrayans for independence and liberty? And I want you to give a picture to our viewers when it comes to its logo. It has a number of elements in these Tigrinya text on the top and in English at the bottom. So maybe we can start with Merce. What is this movement and how it came into being? I know, as I mentioned, this would be officially launched in 2 weeks' time in Washington, D.C. But walk us through what led you to this new initiative.
Uh, Thank you, Getachew. First of all, I would like to thank you personally and UMD Media for giving us this opportunity to introduce STIL, as we call it in short, Solidarity of Tigrayans for Independence and Liberty. It is a social movement that we are establishing, and the reason for establishing this social movement starts with our understanding of that the Tigray people in general have an aspiration, and that aspiration could be achieved through multiple channels. Political efforts is one. We also need social movements, economical initiatives, and other societal initiatives. So it's a combined effort that brings about the achievement of that aspiration. Now, one thing that drove us to establish this social movement is that first, we have identified a gap in the social movement side, because there are political parties that are working to gain the independence of the nation of Tigray, and also for establishing a democratic system in Tigray. But these are political parties with their own ideologies, and there's a lot of people. There's a significant portion of the Tigray population who may not want to associate themselves with one of these political parties, or who may not be interested in the political conflicts and tensions that exist between political parties. So there needs to be a social movement that rallies the people together, regardless of their political opinion, political views, or regardless of their religious and other perspectives, as long as they believe in the establishment of the nation state of Tigray, and also establishment of a democratic system in Tigray. So we believe that majority of Tigrayans aspire to have a nation state of Tigray, and also a democratic state in Tigray. This is a social movement, not a political movement, and it will. We believe that it will fill the gap that exists with respect to non-political civic organization that works towards the realization of the independent state of Tigray. Uh, so that's the purpose. The reason we have you were showing the logo is it shows people rallying together, or in Tigrinya we call it Simrat. Simrat means alignment and solidarity. So people rallying together, and the flame, the torch shows that independence and freedom, or liberty as we call it. The name has three critical words in Tigrinya: Simrat, Natsannat, and Harannat. Simrat means rallying together, Natsannat means independence, and Harannat means liberty. So we stand for these values, standing together for the independence of Tigray, and also creating or establishing a democratic system in Tigray. Those are our objectives, and we aspire to rally every Tigrayan towards these objectives. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mercy. Dr. Gorumkel, you might add there as well. And then I saw very short documents on the objectives and the strategy as well as the structure, all that in Tigrinya. So maybe in addition or on top of what Mercedes said in terms of the general objective, can you tell to our viewers what specific objectives you have? I see four objectives here to our viewers, Dr. Goromka.
Thank you, Professor Geracho. Um, so, as Mercier explained, um, it's important to understand what forced us to establish this social movement. Um, just want to add a few points there before I go to the specific four objectives. So, mainly on the background, there are two things that really kind of forced us to form this solidarity. One is the aspiration of our people, which has been there for centuries or for millennium. Mainly, our people aspire to have a sustainable peace. They aspire to have economic development. They aspire to have dignity and liberty, and they aspire to their identity to be respected. Um, this aspiration has been there for maybe thousands of years, and they have had achieved it in the past, in the golden years of the Aksumite kingdom. Now, after the falling down of the Aksumite kingdom, this aspiration has been taken away from our people, mainly by the Ethiopian Empire. And as a people, we've been fighting for the realization of these aspirations. So, if you see I'll come back to the four main objectives that this social movement aspires to achieve. But these objectives are um, closely related to these aspirations of our people. And as Mercy has said, we identified the gap which is preventing these aspirations of our people to be realized. As it was explained, there are political parties which are working for the realization of these aspirations. And one of the gap is that we know that these aspirations cannot be realized under the current political structure that we're in currently, which is the Ethiopian Empire. And that's why we have this independence as our first objective. So there are political parties which are working for this, but this cannot be achieved only through political work. It needs a grassroots social work. It needs economic work. We need to work on our mentality. So that's why we need this movement to work in our community, not only on the political structure. And the second thing is the genocide as it is, the active genocide which is ongoing. Now, every Tigrayan wants this genocide not to ever happen again. And the only way to make sure that this will never happen is if we do have an independent sovereign nation state. That's the only political structure which can prevent any genocide from happening in the future. So these are on the background when we try, when or basically which forced us to come up with this idea. When we come to the specific four objectives that this solidarity works to achieve, the first thing is independence, the creation of an independent sovereign nation state of Tigray. The second thing is the strategic interests of Tigray. This solidarity will work to make sure that any political entity in its engagement with foreign powers will put the strategic interests of Tigray at the top. The third objective is liberty. Solidarity of Tigrayans as a social movement will work for the realization of full liberty of our people, the liberty and dignity of our people. Our people should be free from both internal and external oppression. So, this is our third objective. The fourth objective is economic, social, and cultural development. Or basically, the people of Tigray have had achieved this in the past, and there is no way that there is no reason that we cannot achieve it again. And we, as a movement or this social movement, will work to make that happen. So these are the four main objectives of this social movement, which is under establishment currently. Remind me if I forgot any question, Professor Getachew, but this is.
Yeah. I think you covered them well. One thing that in the first objective there is a mention of historical territories of Tigray and so on. We will come back to that. But one thing that you both mentioned about its difference with the political parties. So maybe that point I think it merits some deeper discussion. So let me just remind our viewers that we have at least, in my count, six parties operating, including the ruling party TPLF, Tigray People's Liberation Front, and we have Salsa Wayana, we have the Baitwana, the National Congress of Great Tigray, and then we have TIP, the Tigray Independence Party. In fact, before the election of 2020, the regional election within Tigray, TIP was the only party that was vouching for independence explicitly, and it went on that program. And then we have Arena Tigray, that is for democracy and sovereignty, and we have Asimba Democratic Party. So when you say you are not a political party, but at the end of the day, isn't it the political parties who would be, going, especially in terms of economic, social development, all that. So are you planning, that takes me to the strategy, right? So are you planning to work with the political parties to just be a material base for them, or how does that work vis-a-vis the existing political parties? I know for our viewers as well, after the war, Shamsai Wayana and Baitona have made it clear that independence is their goal. I don't know about the ruling party TPLF. You might also share with us or with the viewers your assessment of where the political parties stand in terms of this. One of you, Marcel, you can start. You are muted, I guess. Go ahead now.
All right. Thank you, Getachew. So we are not a political party in such a way that we don't aspire to hold any political position in Tigray. We are establishing this movement for a purpose. That purpose is what guides whatever we do in our activities. And as long as any entity works towards that purpose, we will work with that entity. And as my friend Dr. Gabriel Mikael explained, we have four objectives. The first one being establishing an independent nation state of Tigray. The second one being making sure Tigrayan interests are kept or given enough attention in any dealings with foreign entities, international entities, and also neighboring peoples. And the third is uh, making sure we have a democratic system, democratic institutions, and making sure every Tigrayan's individual rights are respected and the dignity of Tigrayans is respected. And the fourth one is working towards the reconstruction of Tigrayan economy and also building a prosperous society in Tigray. So these are the four things that we will work on. Any entity that uh, works to all or even one of these objectives, we will work with them with the objectives that we align with. So these political parties that you listed earlier, they have their own ideologies, they have their own strategies on how to, enable the people of Tigray to have a prosperous nation. Uh, as long as any of them is willing to take that to the level of establishing a nation state, an independent nation state of Tigray, we will work with them, with anyone. So this social movement is, though, working on the areas that these political parties do not work on. This is mainly for the people in general to get together and work towards the establishment of the independent nation state of Tigray, regardless of their political views, regardless of their religious views. All Tigrayans rallying together for the establishment of the independent state of Tigray. That's our goal. As long as any of these political parties or any non-political parties, entities, NGOs, civic organizations. Ours is a civic organization in such a way, but it's a social movement. So any advocacy groups, any of those kinds of civic organizations, uh, our plan is to collaborate and work with them for the achievement of the purpose we have identified. And we believe that this purpose, the establishment of the independent nation state of Tigray, will rally the populace, the general population of Tigray. And in that aspect, we are planning to work with every political, non-political, civic organization, and also our government. So that's our plan.
Okay, can you speak to the strategies that you plan to follow, Veronica?
So basically, under each objective, we do have strategies on how to achieve so objectives. There may not be enough time to go through every strategy, but to just give a general idea, this movement is going to work in collaboration with all stakeholders. So our work is going to be cause based. For each and every objective, we will work with anybody who agrees in that specific objective, whether that's a political party, whether that's a civic organization, an individual, foreign powers, neighbors, anybody. Um, and then when we come to our internal forces, basically our objectives, the main one being independence. So we want to prepare the groundwork for any political force that fights for independence. Because as we mentioned earlier, it needs a grassroots work. The people need to rally behind this objective. So we help in preparing the groundwork. We enlighten our people so they identify their interests and fight for it. We give social capital to the independent forces. So this is how we plan to achieve our goals. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be the political parties or political structures who get the power and do the final work. Um, and also, there are people, as Mercy mentioned, who are not members of any specific political party, because political parties have additionally ideologies, and some people may not be interested in specific ideologies, so they're not members of political parties. So these people have no framework, or they have no space to work for their objectives. This solidarity or this movement will give them that space to work. If we come to specific strategies, maybe we can display the strategy paper and try to kind of highlight a few things, if we are able to do that.
I'm not sure if you can. It's visible, but yeah. So there is the second one is the strategic document.
Yeah. So under the first objective, which is independence, if you see strategy 1.1, it says this movement will try to convince our people that this new generation is a leader of the current struggle we are in. And we know this new generation is an independence force. So by empowering the new generation, we basically achieving our independence goal. That's one of our objectives. We can go through just to highlight a few things again. It mentions that in the current issues we have, the force that will participate in the negotiations under this genocide that we are undergoing, this solidarity will recommend that anybody or the force that will negotiate with the Ethiopian government should be an inclusive one. It should include political parties. It should include skilled manpower, regardless of their political ideologies or their political affiliations. And that's how we align the aspiration of our people with the political work, what's going on. So we do have strategies in every objective, and every strategy will be also written in detail. We do have some other documents as well.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that on the strategies, if you will. So I will mention the very significant. Not that the others are not significant, but the ones that are indicative of what our overall strategy is with respect to achieving the independence. One of the key things is raising awareness of our own people, but also there is a lot of confusion within the Ethiopian population about the aspiration of the people of Tigray. At this time, most people in Ethiopia may think that the ruling party in Tigray is the one pushing for independence, and the people are not interested. This is the urban legend that the Ethiopian population believes. But the fact of the matter is, majority of the population of the Tigrayan population aspires to establish our own independent nation state of Tigray. And in the opposite, it's the ruling party that is not showing a clear leadership with respect to achieving this independent nation state of Tigray. That's so raising the awareness of our own people with respect to the resources we have. There are some doubts within our own populace that whether Tigray can be a nation state or a a nation of its own or not, whether it has the resources and things like that. So we would like to raise the awareness of the people that Tigray can be one of the most prosperous and successful nations in the world. It has been in the past, about 900 years ago, and it can reclaim that civilization and establish a strong, prosperous nation state. So, one is raising awareness within, inside, and also outside. That's one key strategy we're going to follow. With respect to Tigrayan interests, so there are dealings with external forces, including the federal government. So the negotiations should be done between a representative of the people of Tigray and the federal government of Ethiopia. And this negotiation cannot be done between two political parties or a political party and a government. So this idea of international entities trying to establish a negotiation platform between TPLF and the federal government of Ethiopia does not hold. It's not going to be acceptable for the people of Tigray. Just the way the federal government is representing Ethiopia, a national unity government should represent the people of Tigray. And that should include multiple perspectives from the people of Tigray. It should include multiple political views and also should be led uh, by people who are selected with their merit. So that's one of the strategies that we're going to push for and influence. With respect to internal democracy, we are going to work towards establishment of institutions, democratic institutions in Tigray, including the government offices, public services, civil service offices. All these should be established. The bureaucracy overall should be established based on meritocracy and not political appointment. We also have a strong belief that all regional and what we call wareda or municipalities should be led by elected officials, not by assigned officials. That's also another key strategy that we're going to follow and influence. And also, at the end, we're going to work towards the reconstruction of Tigray by mobilizing the diaspora, also by doing studies on experiences of different countries and new nations formed. So these are some of the strategies that we're going to follow. Another key strategy that we have is the genocide. With respect to the genocide that was committed on the people of Tigray, we want to make sure that international entities recognize it as clearly as genocide, and also that's for that to be also used for as another rationale for establishing an independent nation state of Tigray. So these are some of our strategies. We have many strategies for which we're gonna be continue to release detailed strategical analysis in the coming weeks and months. So that's what we are planning to do.
Okay, maybe on the first objective where you talk about, maybe second objective, I guess, you talk about relations with the international community and the neighboring peoples. So what comes to mind, the people within the current Ethiopia, bordering to the south and east of Tigray, and then to the north we have the people in Eritrea. So have you been, I mean, this is a very new initiative, not even officially established or launched. So is there any contact made so far, or what is your view of where we stand, where Tigray stands vis-a-vis these neighboring people, and then within the international community?
Mhm.
Are you
Um,
there?
sure. Good. So basically, everything is gonna be seen um, in the perspective of Tigray strategic interests, and so any engagement we have with our neighbors or with foreign powers should be in respect to our strategic interests. And at this moment, as the first objective of this movement as well, the creation of an independent sovereign state of Tigray is a very strategic interest. And we want to view every engagement we have um, with this regard or with this perspective. So we're going to convince not only the international community, but our neighbors that the independence of Tigray is not only good for us, but also good for everybody. How do we do that? It needs a lot of research, but few things that come to mind. Um, the formation or the creation of an independent state of Tigray will stop the cycle of violence in the region. And we have to sell this to the international community, to our neighbors. Um, by nature, or the main source of the instability we have is because Ethiopia is or has nations with divergent aspirations, which are basically opposite, and you can never find a middle ground. So if you separate the politics, you can still keep whatever other integrations there is, but then you have to separate the politics, and that will help to stop the cycle of violence. Also, as it has been seen in the past, Tigray had the capacity to be regional power. It has a capacity to um, have an economic development, as it was a huge or a superpower in the past during the Aksumite Kingdom. And then it is also seen even currently that Tigray is a regional power security-wise. So having this or taking into consideration this capacity, the creation of an independent state of Tigray is going to stabilize the region with a strong security apparatus. So that will benefit the people of Tigray, the people of Amhara, Eritrea, and the world as well. So these are just few things, but we're going to convince independence is good, not only for our people, but for everybody in the region. But the main thing is we need independence because that's our people's aspiration. In regards to very specific relations on how to solve problems in regards or in with all our neighbors, uh, if we see the structure of our organization or this movement, it has different departments, and one of the departments is Department of Research, or what we call خفل مصنعتي. So many issues need a lot of research by professionals. So under this department, there's going to be a research in regards to many things, including the historical boundaries of Tigray, on how to solve historical controversies. A lot of things will have research done, and they will be released on timely manner, and they will be addressed as such. So this is a few things that we do have in mind for now. Mercy, I can add on that.
And on that as well, Mercy, you can add, we'll be finishing soon, but I know you have been posting on social media on the launching and all that. So, uh, what is the reaction so far, even before the official launch of the initiative, from, in terms of demographics, in terms of the use, and so on? What kind of responses and feedbacks are you getting, Mercy?
First, let me speak about the relationship with the neighboring peoples. That's a very important one. So when we say an independent nation state of Tigray, we are talking about the people of Tigray in general. Uh, Now, there is a competing idea, which is living under the Ethiopian empire with other people. as the ruling party in Tigray advocates, they say equality and unity with other peoples. Now, we are not against equality and unity. What we are against is being administered from Addis Ababa. We will establish a state in Tigray. We believe that the people of Tigray are righteous people. We believe that the people of Tigray believe in equality. We believe that the people of Tigray will respect people's dignity. So there might be people who might be interested in joining the states that we form, and we are open for that, like the people of Ago, the people of Afar, and uh, other people in today's Eritrea. If they join us, and there are different scenarios. One could be we establish an independent state and we confederate with them or something like that. So we are not deciding that today. That needs to be analyzed, studied based on different scenarios. And we have already started doing some scenario analysis, and we are going to do going to continue to do that. But we are not against living in collaboration, forming states in collaboration. One thing we don't negotiate with is that we want to be clear about is that we will not be administered from Addis Ababa anymore. We will not accept that. We will not be administered from Shawa anymore. Tigray will administer itself. Tigray will establish its own state. Now, if there are other people who want to join us in establishing a common state with mutual respect and equality, we definitely advocate for that. And there are chances to form that kind of state with the people of Ago, with the people of Afar, and other people in today's state of Eritrea. So we are open for that. But our red line, the non-negotiable, is that the establishment of the nation state of Tigray. So with that said, uh, with respect to our formation, the establishment, we are planning to formally establish the solidarity for of Tigrayans for independence and liberty on July 15th, on Friday, July 15th, in Washington, D.C. And we will be holding our founding conference. It will be conducted in a physical conference, and also we will set up a Zoom meeting for our members, only members. It will be transmitted live in multiple media. Uh, so it will be a global initiative. With respect to response that we are getting very overwhelming response. Now, one thing we are being very careful is that this platform, this initiative, is not for political debate or philosophical debate. This platform has a clear purpose. That is the establishment of the nation state of Tigray. We admit to membership only those who believe and strongly believe in the establishment of the nation state of Tigray. If there are people who have doubts, who have questions, who have ambivalence and all that, we do not admit that kind of people at this time. We'll try to convince them in the future, but at this time, we are taking as members only those who believe in the establishment of the nation state of Tigray, and that in the establishment of a democratic system in Tigray. Because this social movement is not going to be the liberation or philosophical debate platform. This is going to be a working grassroots movement, and we're going to influence strongly. We're going to influence our government. We're going to influence political forces. We're going to influence the U.S. government. We're going to influence European governments, and we're going to do a lot of work. So this is a working organization, not theory debate and stuff like that. So we are being very picky on with respect to accepting members. We do background checks. We make sure the members have a strong stand with respect to independence of the nation state of Tigray. Other than that, one thing that surprised me is my thought. This is my personal thought from the data that I am seeing. My thought was it was only the new generation that's really has a strong feeling about the independence of Tigray. But from the response that I'm getting, I'm really surprised that a lot of our fathers and mothers are really passionate about establishment of the nation state of Tigray, and I'm so happy. I'm so excited about this, and it's really a moral boost for us that our elderly and our fathers, the previous generation, is also committed to this establishment of independent state of Tigray. Other than that, we have been getting great responses from everyone, men, women, youth, and as I said, our older generation too. So it's great. We are establishing it on July 15, on Friday, in Washington D.C. We will be releasing a public press with the specific place and time. Thank you.
Great. There are some people who are asking, actively asking a number of questions. Maybe, if you will, there are people who are asking about either any party that would disagree in current to try disagree with what STIL is standing for. That's one question, and there is another question related to that. Maybe um, because the government of today is talking about referendum, holding referendum, or the ruling party. Uh, why if there is a need for this independent forum or for still if referendum is going to be held on that. So if you may, you can answer that. And in the meantime, while you also read the other comments you feel like addressing, I want to play an Eritrean singer who sang, I think, the just recently Menenete. That seems to be in tune with you what you are looking for.
تاريخي زبرخ بقول يقليل بطوف طري زحلق من النتي حديقي حدش من النت فبرخ وندي يحك أخيو بمسلين لتبهلخ وووي بمسلين نتي وندي يحك أخيو وووي بمسلين نتي
Okay, you want to address the question? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, just you may address the questions.
Oh, okay. Um, All right. Before I try to answer some of the questions, I know Mercy was talking about how members will be admitted. Basically, they have to believe in those four objectives, and mainly in the first objective, which is independence. Um, so, of course, members have to uh, believe and work for those four objectives. But for collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, also, we only work cause-based collaboration with organizations or people. So basically with anybody, in order to collaborate, we're not going to ask that we have to agree in all four objectives. If some political party only agrees with that one of the objectives, we're going to collaborate, we're going to work together for the realization of that specific objective with them. So we want to also give the message that we, or this solidarity, is going to collaborate um, with whoever, if we have any common ground, even one objective, will work with them in regards to that specific objective. So I think I'll start with when I go to the questions, I'll start with the second question. I think it says, if the government of Tigray is going to have a referendum, why would you need this movement? Is I think the question. So first of all, even if the government of Tigray is going to have a referendum, and let's say, for argument purposes, that the government of Tigray or TPLF believes in independence, the use of such movement is still necessary. Because when you give our people the platform to vote or the referendum, we still need to make sure that the people are enlightened enough to know their interests and to make the right decisions. And an enlightenment work, or creating awareness, is not done only by a government or political party. So that's the first thing. Um, the second thing is, we also have some reservations. Many people have reservations as to where we are heading under the leadership of the leadership of the government of Tigray, or the TPLF as a political party does not have a clear objective for independence. So we want to make sure that we will not miss this opportunity. Um, so basically, regardless whether the government of Tigray believes in independence or not, this movement or a movement of this kind is still necessary. So that's how I would answer the second question. But I think the first question was, if I'm not mistaken, is there anybody who disagrees in our objectives? Is that the question?
Yeah, so if there is any party within the existing political ecosystem of Tigray that is opposing or the idea of STIL.
So it's not about whether there is someone who opposes his objectives or not. So even if all the population of Tigray, all political parties, all civic organizations, even if they believe, let's say they believe in all these four objectives, still work is needed. Only believing and agreeing is not enough. People have to be passionate about these objectives so that they work hard for their achievement. So we still would want to play a role like this, but also, um, it's there are people, of course, still who question that the independence of Tigray is viable. So we want to address such questions as well. And as I said, we'll work with all political parties. But when we come to, earlier referendum was mentioned, and My personal belief is that referendum is not an objective; it's a process, or it's a way how you get to where you want. So just because there is a referendum there does not mean we can 100% say that we are heading towards independence. I personally believe a political party should have a clear stand on independence, whether pro or against. I never seen in my life, or I never read anything about any political party who fought for referendum. They fight for independence, and at the end of the day, referendum is held to legalize or to get the mandate of the people. So that's my personal experience in regards to this referendum, because it creates a lot of confusion. But as a solidarity, um, out of our four objectives, if the government of Tigray agrees with us in one, we will work with the government of Tigray in that specific objective, and the same for anybody else. Thank you.
Great. I think that will close our session. I think there was a question about, is it the current map or will it claim historical right to access to the sea? All that, I think you're mentioning about research, but will be done, and based on that research, anything would be done based on that. But you might want to address. But finally, for those who joined us late, I have been speaking to founders, two of the founders of Solidarity of Tigrayans for Independence and Liberty, Simrat Tagaru, Ninatsanatan, Haranatan. For those who want to hear from them in Tigrinya, there was a show, I believe, done on Aksumawian media and other medias you might follow. So this is the English show done in terms of understanding and knowing what the solidarity of Tigrayans is, what it stands for, objective, strategy, and its establishment. Official launch would be on the 15th of July, Friday, in Washington, D.C. And if they want to reach out to you or to any of the founders, what is the best way to do that? With that, we'll end today's show.
Um, so we do have a Facebook page by the name of Solidarity of Tigrayans for Independence and Liberty. And also we do have an email, solidarityoftigrayans@gmail.com. Maybe you could display that here. Solidarity of Tigrayans, all small letters, no space, @gmail.com. I think you're mute, Professor Getachew.
So Solidarity of Tigrayans, right?
Yes, solidarityoftigrayans@gmail.com.
So let me see if I can display that here. And search for their Facebook page. This is, I guess, I believe this is the, I don't know why it's not showing. Let me see. I have technical issues. I'm not able to display, but solidarity of Tigrayans@gmail.com is their email address. Contact them there, and those who would make it to Washington on Friday, the 15th of July, you can be also part of the launching ceremony. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time, and that ends our show today.
Thank you so much for having us.
You have been following live on UMD Media Show on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The show on Solidarity of Tigrayans for Independence and Liberty. This is a new movement, social movement, that would be launched on Friday, the 15th of July. And I was speaking to Mercia Kidan and Dr. Gabriel Derazion, the founders of this movement. And see you on Friday with the weekly H panel. Bye.